not necessarily up to date, though we have talked to the census people about breaking down some of the information that they have. But as of 1988, 60% of all Missoula residents rode their bicycles for recreation. And that is just so much farther above the national average, which is very small. And Missoula has 14 times the national average of bike commuters, and that's that are riding their bicycles to work, which comes to about 7% of Missoula people, which gives you an idea of how few people on a nationwide basis are riding.
Transportation plan is a plan that is being financed by the city and the county and the Forest Service and the University of Montana. It's being done by a group called Urban Edges out of Denver. And what they're looking at the entire Missoula Valley and identifying some routes for bicycling and for walking, just ways to get around town that isn't involving use of an automobile. They have been working for about 8 months now and meeting with different groups in town. They've had a number of meetings, and they'll be releasing a draft plan in September that gives their ideas of what the community could do to establish a more defined transportation system that's non-motorized.
So what are some of the routes around Missoula?
Well, in general, what the Missoula Trails Project has been working on for the last 3 years is connections from the urban area to the national forest areas that are right around town, like Patty Canyon, the Rattlesnake National Recreation Area, Blue Mountain are the closest areas. But we have a very strong, I guess you could call it a spine of the trail system, which is the riverfront, which is right in the heart of Missoula, goes through the downtown area and is a nice connection to the university. And then that extends out Hellgate Canyon on the Kim Williams Trail. So that's sort of the heart of the Missoula Trail system. But now we're also looking to establish a corridor up the Rattlesnake, and the city did receive some land and water conservation funding last year to look at establishment of a trail through the Rattlesnake Greenway, which would make a real nice connection from the downtown area or the riverfront, the university, up to the Rattlesnake National Recreation Area. That has been discussed in some of the public meetings with Urban Edges is the possibility of some additional river level crossings on the Clark Fork from the downtown area to other parts of town.
That would be great.
Yeah. Some people think it's a good idea. Some people have some concerns about putting additional bridges along the riverfront, but idea that has come out through the Urban Edges planning is an off-street connection up Patty Canyon. There's a lot of concern about the safety of bicyclists on that road, so possibly some alternative way to get from town up to the recreation area in Patty Canyon.
The city is definitely not bike-friendly yet. Missoula seems to have a bad attitude about bikes, even though it's the only way to go.
You mean with them becoming stricter and everything? With them becoming stricter?
Yeah.
I think it's dumb. I think that police have better things to do than chase people on bicycles who are riding on the sidewalk. It's not a major law. It's not like I'm going to run someone down or anything, and it's a waste of money.
So you've never hit anybody on the sidewalk?
No, I don't ride that much on the sidewalk, but when I do, it's not like I'm reckless or I'm going to hurt someone. And a lot of times the police get really upset about that for some reason.
Have you had any encounters with them since they've been on the street?
Yes, I have. About 3 or 4.
How did it go?
Well, they were really angry. They didn't have to be that angry with me. I'm just riding on the bike. I'm not holding up a store or anything. And a lot of times they'll yell at me about it and everything. All they have to do is say, get off the sidewalk or just give me my ticket and I'll be about my ways instead of yelling at me and lecturing me.
The best way you could do that is just education. I mean, you can do it through any form of media, pamphleting or whatever, a lot cheaper. You get a lot less attitude if you put a pamphlet out than if someone comes up to you in a bike outfit and says, you're doing the wrong thing.
I like the fact that they have policemen on bicycles now.
I think if cyclists are to gain respect as users of the road, we have to have the responsibility to use them as they were intended.
For example, that sign, no bicycles on the sidewalk. Sometimes, especially not necessarily on Higgins, but on Orange Street, certainly. And on the Madison Street Bridge, I think it's I would rather be on the sidewalk than on the street, certainly on Orange Street, because it's just too dangerous. I think instead of saying no bicycles on the sidewalk, what they should say is, please dismount for pedestrians. That way, if there's no pedestrian on the walkway, I'm not expected to get off the bicycle. Because I have been told when there's no pedestrian on the walkway or when the pedestrian's way over on the other end that I have to get off the bicycle no matter what.
Okay. The Bicycle Bank is a program that originated through a series of people. Beth Sir, who has worked a lot with Jeanette Rankin Peace Resource Center, some other concerned people in the community at the time of the Gulf War crisis, tried to come up with a proactive way that they could provide a positive solution to oil consumption and also help people transport themselves around town in a non-polluting, helpful, healthy manner. And so they came up with this idea of a bike bank, which would allow people to fill out an application. They have to meet certain financial criteria because it is for people who can't necessarily afford a bicycle to get to and from work, or maybe their car breaks down and they realize at that point how expensive it is to maintain that car, and they don't have the available funds to do it. So they can fill out an application, explain their situation, and get a sponsor for the program and for their personal need, and then we review it and look over their credentials and things like that, and assign people bicycles at that time after we've reviewed it. Those bicycles are almost all donated by people from around the community. Some of the bicycles do come from the recovered bikes in the police department, which have been very poorly abused and have sat in the recovery room for months. And so we do give them out to the bike bank also. Volunteers help put those bicycles together, or back together again, and they do everything from repairing tires and brakes to sort of assembling a bike from multiple parts of kind of trashed bikes to make a working bike.
Wow.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish I had great ideas about that. I don't know. I don't know what it takes to get people out of their cars on their bikes. I mean, when you're running around in this town when it's cold out and you can't exercise in town because the air's so bad, and we live in a mountain community. It seems like that ought to be enough to get people out of their cars and on the bicycles or walking. But people won't even use mass transportation, so I don't know what it's going to take. It's going to take
Well, why do
probably financial incentive.
Okay. Why do you ride your bicycle?
For environmental reasons, mostly. I don't like to use gas, and I don't like to pump gas into the air when you don't have to. I ride as much as I can. I ride to work and back all winter. So it's not that hard. It just takes a little incentive and some warm clothes. You can do it. It's hard when the roads are really snowy and icy, and this new chemical they put on the roads last year made it a lot harder. That new chemical's really hard to ride in instead of just plowing the roads.
Okay.
Using sand and dirt.
I missed that.
Did you miss that?
Yeah.
They started using a de-icer chemical last year as a test because they say using sand and dirt puts more pollution in the air, although it's particulates and large particulate type of pollution. And the chemical melts the snow, but it doesn't go away. It just kind of melts it into a slush, and it builds up on your tires, and it's really hard to ride. It's a lot harder than riding in regular snow or riding in sand and dirt.
Is it slipperier?
Yeah, you get, it's for some reason sticks on your tire, it builds up and wraps around your tire, so you don't have, it's like you don't have any tread on your tire, it's a chemical all in the slim tire.
Ooh.
And it's really hard to ride in.
Okay, that's something to bring. Do you think the bikes
I
coordinators?
also wonder what the hell it does to the aquifer too.
Okay.
Dumping lots of chemicals in the street, because all the storm drains dump right into the aquifer, or dump into the aquifer eventually. I don't know how good it is to pump chemicals all over the streets. I'm not sure how safe they are for the aquifer. I'm sure somebody's looked into that. I hope somebody's looked into that.
I got a ticket for riding. I was actually sort of half riding on the sidewalk, one leg on the ground, sort of pushing myself along the sidewalk. But the problem was I rode right up to a policeman who was giving someone else a ticket for riding on the sidewalk, and so there's not much he could do. But although I wasn't officially riding, he had to give me one.
How do you feel about it?
Well, I thought he was too hung up on the letter of the law as opposed to the spirit, because I wasn't really riding. I was sort of moseying along, and I had my take home from Casa Pablo's, and I wasn't like zooming down, endangering people's lives. So I thought it was uncalled for.
What would you describe as the spirit of the law?
Well, riding on the sidewalks is definitely a hazardous practice, and people shouldn't do it whenever there's people walking on the sidewalks or a busy time of day. But whenever there was no one there, and I was just sort of like pushing myself along, I thought it was like the letter of the law is don't ride on the sidewalks because you don't want to run people over. But I wasn't riding my bike. I was sort of near my bike.
Can you make
Good and bad points. I definitely feel that bicycles should adhere to the rules. No riding on the sidewalks, paying attention to all traffic signs. Basically responsible riding. Unfortunately, I feel that by giving citations to those who don't, it kind of gives it a bike riding, boy, how do I say, it almost discourages bike riding. For instance, if you're going to run to the store but you don't have a bike light at that time, you're going to jump into your car as opposed to jumping on your bike. Granted, you should have a bike light, but there are those times when you don't have one. And if you're going to get a $10 ticket, you'd much rather drive than take a bike.
Seem like nice guys. They seem a lot more approachable now, I guess, since they're not in their cars, but I still think that I'd like to give them a run for their money sometime.
People give you kind of weird looks, like if they're walking towards you and you can't figure out who has the right of way on the, like who. Like when you go back and forth with someone, you do that on a bike with a person and they always think they have the right of way, which I don't think is always fair, but be courteous and that type of thing.
I don't know. I mean, they haven't bothered me so far, but I've heard that they've been giving people tickets and some bicyclists hard times, and it seems like there's it's a kind of strange way to go about policing things. And I think a lot of bicyclists are riding on the sidewalk because they feel unsafe in the road, and then they get a ticket for it. That seems kind of stupid. It seems like the problem is the town hasn't made bike lanes.
It just seems like a backwards policy to me to like pay these people to like enforce, to try and create safety among bicycles when the main danger is from the automobile.
On the bridge, and you ride your bicycle, you stop?
Yeah, just slow down. So your feet are on the ground.
So you don't need a policeman to tell you to do that?
No. You would think that most bikers,
What do you need?
because you would end up crashing into the side of the lane anyway. It's your own safety.
And it brings up, are you going to solve the root of the problem, or are you going to let the problem happen and then deal with it? And that's what police are for. The root of the problem being no bike lanes, or transportation that's all geared towards automobiles rather than bikes. I think it's important to have a helmet and a light on in the evenings. I think that's important to enforce and encourage.
It seems like the fines are, if you're riding a bicycle a lot, you're trying to save, it's an economic thing, and it's besides it seems like the fine shouldn't have to be $25. I think pretty extreme, $5 or $10 is going to be enough to be That's really easy to do.
Do you know what? I think it's important to say that they make something in the streets for the bikers to ride, a space for them to ride before they just force them out into the streets. Yeah, I'm riding by on my bike and I can't compete with the traffic, so I'm hugging, the right side of the road just outside of the parking lane, and a woman, without looking, opened her car door, and it was a near miss, before myself on my bike crashed into her as she opened the door. So there's not room. If they would just get the cars off the street and make the parking space a bike lane, then I think that things might work down a little better, at least for the bicyclers anyway.
I think that's a very good point. We've noticed the most annoying thing that motorists do when we're riding where we should be is a motorist fails to judge our speed, zips by us 50 feet ahead of us, puts on a right turn signal, and makes a turn right in front of us. That's a very common move.
Well, obviously, there's no education given to at all for bike riders, and also for motorists dealing with bicyclists. Obviously, that's a first step. When you go to get your driver's license, there should be something that talks about bicyclists. So, that's a start.
What do you think motorists would need to know to be more considerate of bicyclists on the road?
I think that they should know that a bicycle is a valid form of transportation and to be respected as one, and to be treated as one. You know, that's about it.
What kind of things do motorists violate? What kind of rules do they violate that upsets the bicyclist?
I think that they feel that the bicyclist should yield to a motorist mainly. Therefore, they're constantly pulling out in front of you, or pulling by you when you're, and you know, honking their horn, yelling at you, doing whatnot. When the bicyclist is in their proper lane, you know, a motorist should have to pass them like they're passing an automobile. Motorists aren't interested in doing that. They feel that they should just be able to drive right along, and that the bicyclist should be in, you know, whatever, off the pavement or what have you.
Off the pavement, but so the bicyclist can't ride on the sidewalk, and
right.
The motorist wants him off the street.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah, it's a really hard situation.
And so where do you think the police understand that?
Actually, I think they do. As a matter of fact, Bill Dykus, one of the police, the bicycle police, he stops in quite a bit. We talk to him a lot. I mean, just in this morning we were discussing this very issue, and he seems to think it's getting better, which it definitely is. I mean, there's a lot more cyclists, and it seems to me that there are actually a lot more cyclists that are adhering to the law, so which is also good, I guess.
From a driver's ed standpoint, I know that they like new drivers to learn to stop in front of behind the crosswalk, and then edge out. But many motorists just cruise right over the crosswalk before they stop and look. That's true. And a bicycle will have to deviate. That's a good point. But I think the turns, the right turn that the cars make in front of bicycles is probably number one annoying move that you really have to be cautious about. And then riding in traffic, people opening their doors to traffic, you have to be very, very careful. And as a bicyclist, look through the rear windshields to the driver's side of the car to see if in fact there's anybody there who may be ready to open the door.
I think that it's weird that society always tries to make crimes out of activities that are beneficial to the community. I mean, riding your bike benefits, especially in Missoula, because with all the pollution and stuff in this valley. And you're doing a benefit to the community by not driving your vehicle, and you're creating a lot less hazard. I mean, if you get hit by a bike, it's going to hurt a lot less than getting hit by a big gas burning vehicle. I just think, but those are the people where the pressure comes down on. It's like, well, we need to have people running around with guns to regulate these people because they're a danger to themselves or a danger to the community, and it's really just the opposite, the total opposite.
Are these bike police just after bikers, or they're policemen who ride bikes?
In Madison, they're separate individuals they hire just for the summertime, for the spring and summer.
So they're after everybody, not just bike riders.
Madison, they're just after bike riders. So you have to.
Well, certainly we're out here to assist in enforcing pedicyclist laws, but we also are pretty effective with traffic. And in a concentrated area such as downtown, the officers have issued a number of citations for 2 motor vehicles, for running red lights, U-turns, a DUI or 2. So the bike really is pretty effective in an area where the motor vehicle speeds are moderate, the blocks are short enough that you've got traffic lights to control traffic, and the bicycle can get up to the car and tap on the window and explain to the motorists what they have just done. So, yeah, the mountain bike isn't just for bicycles, but it's a pretty effective tool downtown.
It was a program that is sort of a pilot thing where they're trying to get police officers on bicycles. It's sort of reduces that glass curtain that surrounds police officers and allows them to be more in touch with what's actually happening on the streets and the sidewalk in the community. I've seen them riding all the way out to the south side of town and the mall, down to East Missoula. They're all over, and they're having wonderful luck getting not only, I shouldn't say luck, but wonderful experiences, not only in just writing tickets to bicyclists and other cars, but they've been at the first people on the scene of crimes because they were able to commute more quickly and maneuver their bicycles to crime area or crime incidences. They've been able to do drug busts because they come up on people quietly, or they're not suspecting them. There's not this large metal object, coming through the park or whatever that makes a lot of noise and has lights and everything else on it. It gives them a little bit more stealth ability, and also I think it makes them seem more human to the people that are walking on the streets, because there's actually a physical person. You can see more than just their head and their arms. You get to see this person who's doing something that you and I may do every day, and it just seems to make the connection a little bit stronger.
I like the fact that they have policemen on bicycles now. In Missoula, I think that the idea is that the policemen on bicycles are dealing mainly with cyclists, and so I think that's kind of sad, because I think that it should be, maybe they should think of themselves as having a larger scope.
You know, there really aren't a lot of bicycles that are stolen as the result of a cut cable or chain. Most of them that are stolen are left on front porches, out in front yards, leaning against a tree in front of a business, maybe resting against a parking meter. My guess is that the vast majority of them that are stolen were unsecured and just made an easy grab.
See, what I'm saying is that they should enlarge their scope and not just be bicycle police. They should be policemen who are on bicycles.
Actually, my light was just stolen. I'm looking for another one, so.
It seems like there's a lot of bike thefts in town, because even people who get our bike bank bikes, which are usually pretty crummy bikes, I mean, that you wouldn't think people would want, they're getting their bikes stolen. And often it's because they haven't, gotten enough money to buy a lock yet before somebody steals it. So, in that way they're at fault. But it seems like there's a lot of bike thefts going on, and I'm sure that there's some bike thief rings operating in town. That would be nice if they would put a little bit into trying to crack some of that. And
most people don't have their bikes stolen when they have decent locks on them. But the first year I lived here, some people cut down a tree that my roommate had his bike locked to and took the bike.
Really?
Yeah, a small tree, but it was a substantial tree. 10 inches or so in diameter. Bike thefts hard. I don't know. Seems like around here people steal a lot of little things like seats and wheels, and that's expensive in its own. But it's hard, to haul around, all kind of locking apparatus to deal with that.
I would say 95–97% of the bicycles down in the recovered bicycle area do not have a license. Almost all the bikes that come down there that have a license on them, I'm able to return. There are a few exceptions. Sometimes people will buy a bike from somebody who has licensed it, but they haven't transferred the license. And so at that point, we're not able to trace that person back to, or the bike and the license together. Most people who have taken the time to fill out a license form also have taken the time to fill out a stolen bike report, which I heartily encourage everyone to do. There are so few stolen reports for as many bikes as we have down there. Those bikes sit down there for 60 days, and I review the bikes with the stolen bike reports periodically, and then at the point of 60 days from the time of recovery, I review them one final time, and if there is no report matches, I will send them off to auction. And that occurs at Gardner's Auction Service about once a month is what we're going to aim for. And right now, I think we average about 4 bikes a day in the summer months that are recovered. And that's an awful lot of bikes that are stolen or sort of taken and ridden someplace and dropped off.
The bike bank started officially on Earth Day 1991. And that was kind of our launch day because it was kind of a significant date. And we're still up and going, so we think that's pretty good. The bike bank is sort of like a food bank, only they give away bikes instead of food. And all the bikes that we get are donated by people who maybe have extra old bikes laying around their garage. They want to get rid of them, and they don't necessarily need to sell them. So they give them to us, and then we kind of get them in running order, and then we give them away to people who apply for the bikes. And people apply for the bikes by filling out an application that was constructed by the City of Missoula Bicycle Program Coordinator down in City Hall. And she reviews each application, and people who are needy and can't afford to buy a bike on their own are then approved, and they get to come and pick out a bike from the bike bank and ride away on it.
And where would they pick up the applications?
They can pick up the applications in two places right now. One is at the City Hall, at the City Engineers section of the building, and they could just go up to the desk there and ask. But that's the section of the building where the City of Missoula Bicycle Program is, and they would have the applications. And the other place is the Jeanette Rankin Peace Resource Center.
Okay. And how about volunteers? Where would they donate bikes? Same places?
All bikes or parts or supplies, bike supplies, or if somebody wanted to donate money, would be donated at the Jeanette Rankin Peace Resource Center. And that's where we store our bicycles. And they like to receive bicycles on Friday between 10 and 5, or Saturday between noon and 4 p.m. And those are the only times that they want bicycles donated.
Okay, and have you gotten a lot of bicycles donated?
Yeah, we've gotten a lot of bicycles donated. Oh, probably well over 200 bicycles donated. And then sometimes if we can't fix them, even if they're just parts, we can use the parts at least for something else. So we always tell people that, not to worry if it's just parts, that those are useful too.
And how many bicycles have gone out?
Have gone out? I got those numbers. 142 bicycles at this point. But we actually have we've had a total of 165 requests just this year for bicycles.
Oh.
And so I'm still trying to fill that those extra ones that we haven't yet. And that's what this pile of papers here is. It's all applicants waiting for bikes. And we just fix them up as fast as we can and give them out as soon as they're fixed. It just takes a while to fix them.
Okay. Do you have a copy of the form that people fill out?
Yeah, well, I don't want you to see this person's name, but this is, the application. So it's pretty short, it's just one page. And it's got information on the other side.
Because a friend of mine was looking at the old application, and it had a sponsor.
Yeah, it has space for a sponsor. And the reason that was included was because the City of Missoula Bicycle Program Coordinator felt like it needed to be a program that people had to do a little something to show that they actually wanted a bicycle, and that they were willing to go to a little bit of effort to get one. And we just felt like because of the volume of applications, that we needed to know who was really going to use it and who was really in need of it, and not just somebody who thought, oh, it'd be fun to have a bike. So the sponsor's just sort of a safety feature, because we feel we have a responsibility to all the people who donate bikes and to the people who volunteer and work on them to get them into the hands of the people who need them the most.
What would be an example of a sponsor?
A friend. People use friends, or they use teachers, or the social workers, or Job Quest, or Poverello Center, or there's lots of people that sponsor.
Okay.
So it's really not hard to get a sponsor. If you know anybody at all, you could, if they can just say, yes, I think this person would really use the bike. But there's quite a few people, as for example, and this person that applied, that didn't get a sponsor at all. And sometimes I do have to put them at the back of the list because often they don't even have, people who apply don't have phone numbers. And if they don't have a sponsor on there who has a then we have one less chance of getting a phone number or a way of contacting them. And so they often end up at the back of the list. So the sponsor helps not only in letting us know that, yeah, they really do want a bike and they're going to use it and they've gone to a little bit of trouble to try and get it, but it's also a way of being able to contact these folks, because I'd say well over half or 3/4 of the folks that apply for bikes don't even have phones. So that's how poor they are. They can't afford a phone either.
Okay.
You're seeing just me here on the camera, but it's, I mean, I don't even know how to fix a bike. All I do is give out the bikes, but the Open Road Bicycle Shop, the guys that work here have just been incredible. They've helped us fix bikes. They've trained volunteers how to fix bikes. They help get us parts at wholesale. We just couldn't have done it without them. And then the Jeanette Rankin Peace Resource Center has just been incredible with, phone time and contact with the public and storing the bicycles. And then the city of Missoula Bicycle Program people have just really made it possible to make it kind of official and make it so that the program won't just fall apart. If one or two of us end up leaving it after a while. So it's kind of neat the way all these people have kind of come together and help out. And Pam Dietrich and Perry Gleisman have been backbones in fixing bikes. They've probably fixed over 70 bikes this summer, just those two people.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
If somebody wanted to volunteer to help fix bicycles, where would they go?
Well, they could call the Jeanette Rankin Peace Resource Center, and then they would get a hold of me and give me their name and stuff. Our big goal, if anybody's interested, is to try and get a lot of bikes fixed over the winter, because next summer, if we get double the number of requests again, then we're gonna have another couple hundred bikes that people are gonna want, and so we thought if we could get a head start on it over the winter.
I mean, the bicycle bank is great, but there should be community bicycles everywhere, man. Missoula taxpayers can afford to pay for 1,000 bicycles, and they can be left on every corner. One-speed bikes, black metal bikes that cost $50 to manufacture, and then if you ride one, you ride it to where you go. If somebody else wants to take it, they can take it, and then there can be a city maintenance garage. Simple thing. Good for Missoula's air. It'd be a lot cleaner if like 80% of us rode bikes instead.
Like, I personally believe they should just ban all the cars downtown for the most part, or set up special bicycle corridors so the bikes can have their own streets.
And the bridges here are especially dangerous. If they could somehow attach an addendum to the bridge that was cheaper than building a separate bicycle bridge, you could just, create a little bicycle lane on the outside of the bridge. Or under the bridge.
Underneath the bridge.
I have no dreams that I'm going to convert everyone to get out of their car and to ride a bike or walk. But if I can also encourage those people to maybe, who are driving, to pick somebody else up and drive with more than one person in their car, to carpool, or to share rides to sporting events or things like that with their friends. I think that is a positive step towards reducing the number of cars out there who have single occupancy drivers in them, or to get them to try the mountain lion once a week. And if you start thinking about the impact that a single automobile exhaust has on the environment, on the traffic in the streets, which require large amount of dollars to repair, which is an ongoing basis. it'd be nice if we could sort of reduce our impact overall. And however small the step may be, it's still sort of a step in that direction. And hoping people sort of make a habit out of it after they find out how easy and inexpensive it is to try something else. The CMAQ funds, or the Intermodal Surface Transportation Act, I guess it's better for me to explain what it is. I always hear this phrase, $30 million, and I think there's been a lot of miseducation through the newspapers and the media about exactly what that money can do for the city. It was an act created by Congress that identified areas across the country that needed to, that were not meeting CO standards. So Malfunction Junction, we were below EPA standards on that. So they identify our city, and we're the only one in Montana, which gave the full $30 million, or that magical phrase that seems to be popping up all over. That money is given out on a 5-year plan. The first year it's $4 million, and then it's followed by 6, and then every year after it's $5 million. We still need to be approved for the projects that we put into the Federal Highway Administration to get our projects kind of accepted, and that they'll be willing to give us that money for what we're doing. At this point right now, it hasn't been approved. We may not get the money. We may only get the money for 2 years, which would be $9 million, which is still fantastic. But it isn't this bulk sum of money that's sitting in someone's, the city bank account just waiting to be spent. It's something that needs there's a lot of check and recheck, and the Congress is actually making up the laws and the rules about how it's being spent as we're going each day. It's completely new. There isn't any sort of infrastructure to deal with the disbursement of all this money. But as for the question of what we'd like to do with it, there were projects to do things like the California Street Bridge, to provide a bicycle pedestrian path at that point across the river. There were proposals to provide a walkway from the north side to the downtown area, and we kind of put that in the bulk of $2 million out of that supposed $30 million to be spent on bicycle pedestrian ways. And those are more junctions to get us from over major traffic hurdles like heavy train traffic or rivers or large intersections and things like that. There's also some of the money is put for projects to add bike racks onto the bus line, which I think would be fantastic, or provide parking for bicycles in large parking lots, bike parking in like car parking lots. So if I live in Frenchtown and I ride my bike into the city, I can park my car and take my bike and then ride it to work. Oh. If I do like parked on the outskirts of town and then commute within the city limits.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh. Just sort of a variety of projects that try and meet a variety of needs for bicyclists, and hopefully get some of those things going. Yeah. And there's a large scope of them available. You can the TAC, or the TAC committee, through the Office of Community Development, has a list of those projects for the public to look at that we proposed.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Where's that?
It's downstairs in the city hall, downstairs, west side.
TAC.
Yeah.
West side. Okay.
Yeah. OCD.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, gee, it sure would have been nice if when they redesigned the area around Brooks that they put in some sort of accommodations for bicycles, but they didn't do it, did they? No. So unfortunately, if we're going to get out into that area, we're not going to be able to use our bicycles unless we take our lives in our hands. I was really disappointed with that. A couple of things I'd like to see is I'd like to see the bridge just below, or the Orange Street Bridge that has the railroad tracks on it. That isn't used very often. I'd like to see it modified for bicycles. Also, I'd like to see a couple of pedestrian bridges along Missoula. It would be nice to have one in between Higgins and Orange, and it would also be nice to have the one below Orange. I could see that being all integrated into this trail system here. I love this trail system. This trail system is wonderful. I add it on to my nightly bicycle rides. In the summer, my nightly bicycle rides are really important to me. Greeno Park, and then you can connect that up with this trail system that goes along the Clark Fork. It's really beautiful. But I mean, we have a wonderful opportunity to provide public spaces and trail systems in this town. And really, I think that would have to do with the quality of life, which has to do with the growth of this town. People are coming here for the quality of life.
Oh,
They're
yeah,
not coming
I'd like
here
to see, basically, I'd love to see all 93 closed down, really, and just have traffic rerouted around town somehow in a central circle, so that just so everything's accessible by bikes in town, but you know, the traffic can circle around and have like a bus service going into the center, something like that, you know. I mean, it's a lot of money, and you can do something really creative with it, I'm sure.
In some cities in Europe, the whole downtown, you're not allowed to drive your car in. And I think that would really encourage people to ride their bikes more. They'd either have to park outside and walk in, or they'd have to ride their bike. And I think that would encourage biking, and it would help with pollution.
For cleaning up the air? Well, always, you know, number one in my mind would be putting the trolley system back in, or electric buses or something. There's a lot of old people in town who remember when there used to be a nice trolley system in Missoula that they would use to get around on. And I guess I think that would do a lot for the character of the town, too. But in terms of bicycling with the 30 million, gee, you know, it'd be nice if they could make some larger spaces on the roads for where bicyclists had a little bit of a shoulder to ride on, so that they didn't have to compete with the trucks and heavy traffic if they're coming home from work during rush hour. Some of these roads, you know, you're really, it's pretty stiff competition with the motor vehicles.